Trans people face a number of barriers when accessing healthcare. At some of the most vulnerable times in our lives, we're left distressed, emotionally fragile and isolated due to our trans status. And in fewer places is this more evident than in cancer care.
This should never be the case. It should be evident that trans people should receive an equal level of care as anyone else.
Yet we still find ourselves battling a system which does not and has never accounted for our needs, which are often varied and intricate.
Now, these needs, while sometimes being different from mainstream cis society, are not necessarily complex. So what are the barriers that trans and non-binary people face?
When we spoke to people from across the country, one of the most common barriers we found was a simple lack of knowledge from care providers. Not knowing about trans people and the context that we live in means that professionals will often jump to conclusions about our lives and how we want to live.
One of our respondents, a 24-year-old non-binary person, said that there was an underlying message that I was really female. This core misunderstanding of gender identity leads trans people to doubt their own confidence in the systems that are put in place to protect all of us and makes us less likely to access that healthcare in our time of need.
It is undeniable that cancer is a heavily gendered condition. From its marketing to the screenings themselves, we are told that breast cancer and cervical screenings are for women, prostate and testicular for men. For trans people, this is not the case. Our bodies do not conform to a binary idea of male and female.
And lying outside of this dichotomy leaves us exposed and isolated, as demonstrated by another one of our respondents, a 20-year-old trans man, who said, "The spaces to access care are also gendered, and we either feel unwelcome in them or we are outright turned away."
Because of this, it is very possible for a trans man who presents entirely male to need screenings for breast and cervical cancer. However, due to being listed as male on NHS systems, they will be missed from those calls to screening, putting them at risk.
The same can be true for both trans women when it comes to testicular and prostate cancer, and for non-binary people who, depending on their bodies, may be susceptible to any type of cancer. So, what can be done to help remove these barriers?
Firstly, avoiding the use of gendered language in promotional material and instead focusing on body parts is essential. Not every woman has breasts, not every man has testes, and non-binary people could have any kind of body part.
Secondly, educate healthcare professionals about trans people in order for us to be treated with respect and dignity. Professionals should have a basic understanding of trans people, including pronoun usage, physical transition and wider contexts.
And finally, there is a deep need to support the mental health of trans and non-binary people. We know that our community is more susceptible to mental health issues, and we know that dealing with an illness like cancer has effects that are beyond the physical.
Investing in specialist support for trans and non-binary people and having services which cater to our needs would be of enormous benefit to trans people.
Trans and non-binary people are deserving of the same respect and treatment as anybody else, but right now we are being failed across the board. And perhaps the most powerful testimony is one of the individuals who responded to us.
Ultimately, no one expects to meet a trans person, and people are always surprised that we exist. Services tend to overly focus on the fact that we are trans and miss every other relevant piece of information.
In the example of my friend, they died because their cancer was missed, despite them being symptomatic for over 2 years. It was missed because they kept being told that it was their mental health making them unwell.
And I believe this was in part due to assumptions that are made about trans and non-binary people by health professionals.
We're asking you to support us.
We are asking you to support us in every step of our
journey.
journey. Thank you.